Hello, beautiful ones. Dr. Nikki here. So for this video, I'm just going to share a little bit more about meditation with you. So some of the reasons why, meditation will change your life. So I wanted to talk about creating space. And, that's just not about creating work-life balance, creating more space in our lives, which I'm sure we could probably all benefit from as well, particularly in our modern day ways of, trying to be doing anything and everything all at the same time. But I really wanted to go a little bit deeper and look at creating space in your body and your mind as well. And so you might have noticed when we are overwhelmed, over busy, tense, and stressed, the body feels all constricted. And our energy also constricts. This is the nature of what's called the fight or flight response. I'm sure you've heard of that before as well, the stress response. So the response that keeps us safe if we are actually in danger. So it does have a benefit. But again, as I mentioned about our modern day life, the thing is that when we are over busy and we're in fear of, not achieving everything we needed to get done in a day, or fear for a whole lot of other subconscious reasons, we can be running these programs that create a fight or flight response very often. And I'm sure there's probably quite a lot of you listening to this that, can relate to that too. But what happens is that when we stress, we're not only constricted, but our mind becomes very constricted as well. And this is how it actually keeps us safe. So we get a disconnect from our frontal cortex, which is our reasoning, socializing part of the brain, to our survival mode, which means our brain is geared up to look for danger. And so as we continue to perpetuate these stress responses in our day-to-day lives, our thinking also changes. So we're thinking about where the danger is. We can start to take ourselves down all sorts of rabbit holes about things that may or may not be happening, what people think, who's doing this and what, and drama, rama. But all of these things, this is a natural response that happens when we're in the stress response. And so, the benefit of being able to take the time to reduce our stress and to balance that nervous system is going to start to make differences on so many layers throughout your whole life. And so the way the nervous system works is it works like a seesaw or a teeter-totter. So when we're in that fight or flight response, that stress response, our rest and digest or relaxation response is lower. You can't have both at the same time. It goes like this. And so what science has found that modulates this is our 10th cranial nerve, so the vagus nerve that you might have heard of. And so there are some really cool ways that we can stimulate this vagus nerve to help to counteract this stress response, and it increases this rest and relaxation. And interestingly, a lot of the ways that we can modulate our nervous system or bring it back into balance, or even, allow ourselves to be in deeper relaxation, are some of the things that are naturally done in the practice of meditation. And so I thought I would share some of these practices with you. So the first one is simply creating more space. So if you are safe to do so, closing down your eyes, I'll just take you through some of these so we can practice and then you can feel it as well. And as you take that opportunity to become aware of yourself, where you are right now, noticing your breath. And as you start to slow down the breath, your nervous system relaxes. It starts to relax the stress response just by simply slowing down our breath. And that signals to the brain that it is safe when our breath is going slower, our mind knows that it's safe to relax. And you might notice as you're slowing down that breath, you might feel a softening throughout your physical as the body starts to relax. You may notice that the breath can be drawn a little deeper. And so as you continue with that gentle, steady, lengthened out breath, really starting to feel into that expansion as you allow that breath to become a little more full. And with each in-breath, just allowing yourself to feel into that feeling of expansiveness. If you haven't worked a lot with the breath or you are under a lot of stress at this time, this will take practice. But like anything, becomes easier with practice. And as you start to allow that breath to become even a little bit more full, if possible, you might notice the bottom of the lungs and feeling into the diaphragm, which is that muscle that runs across the bottom of the lungs. And if your body is able to relax enough to connect with that diaphragm, that muscle across the bottom of the lungs, as your lungs grows into that full expansion, you can feel that diaphragm start to draw downwards. May appear as we're breathing into the belly, which is sometimes it's referred to, but as that diaphragm draws down, as the lungs grows to its fullest, the appearance of the abdominal, your stomach extending is what actually happens. By really connecting into that movement of the diaphragm, this is another way that we can stimulate the vagus nerve and so stimulate that relaxation response. If you find that you are naturally a shallow breather, this is also a result of that stress response. And, sometimes we can become conditioned to the stress. And unfortunately, then we see it as normal. But you'll be able to tell by your breath if you are breathing shallow and are having trouble breathing more deeply, it would be really worth practicing relaxation. And another tool that we can use is extending the out breath. So you might breathe in for the count of 4 and breathe out for the count of 6. Or breathe in for 2 and out for 4. Whatever works for you is perfect. We just want to have an extended exhale, so a bit longer on that out breath. This will also bring that nervous system back into balance by stimulating the vagus nerve. A really nice little tool that we can use if you are feeling stressed or having trouble with your breath, coming to this expansiveness through the breath, is to do the exhale like you were breathing out through a straw. So you might breathe in, and then as you breathe out, and this will naturally extend that exhale for you without you having to think too much about it. So try that one at any time if you're having trouble finding that deeper breath. And if you can connect in with the diaphragm, continuing to allow those lungs to expand to their fullest. And really feeling into that concept of expansion. And then on your next in-breath, breathing again all the way to the very end of your in-breath and popping in a pause. And then this time as you release the out-breath, feeling into that releasing, that release and letting go. And just continuing with that cycle, so breathing in to the very end of your in-breath and pause, and then feeling into that release, that surrender that happens with the out-breath. You might notice that there's nothing you need to do for the out-breath, just let go. And so as we continue to ride the waves of the breath, feeling into that expansiveness with the in-breath, and then that release and letting go with the out-breath, all the way to the end of your out-breath, and maybe pausing again, and then allowing that in-breath once more, connecting in with that diaphragm, drawing that diaphragm down, stimulate that vagus nerve right to the very end of the in-breath, and then pausing. And then this time on the out-breath, sighing with the out-breath. So a big letting it all go. This is another way that we can also work with that vagus nerve to balance the nervous system. So sighing on that out-breath. And so just continuing with that for a few more rounds of breath. Really feeling into that expansion and that release. And as you release, you might notice that softening that allows that in-breath to maybe even become slower and more deep. And just doing this one more round of breath, sighing on that out-breath. And then returning back to your normal breath, but keeping it extended so you can stay in this relaxed state. And now just taking a moment to connect in with how you're feeling. Doing a scan of your body, noticing if there is any areas of tension anywhere, and if so, sending the breath into that space and seeing if you can create some more space as you breathe in and releasing that tension as you breathe out. Now we're just going to stay with that extended breath for a few more rounds of breath. And then whenever you're ready, you can start to bring some gentle movement back. And then opening up your eyes. Of course, you're welcome to extend that practice for as long as you feel you need. And sometimes it's a godsend, just these simple little tools that can completely change your day. And, you know, change where you're at a particular time in your life as well, particularly if you are going through some of the trials and tribulations that, you know, are that part of the lived experience. That's another thing that I wanted to share with you about being in this, what they call parasympathetic nervous system response. So being in that relaxation response is that we're able to reason better. So not only do we create more space in our body, but we create more space in our mind as well. And then it's from this space that it is much easier for us to be able to find resolutions of things that may be going on inside of us or around us as well. And so this is another amazing benefit of working with the breath or doing a meditation practice, is that the quality of reflection after you've even spent 5 minutes in extended breathing will come much more naturally and be much more harmonious as well. You may be pleasantly surprised at the difference in how you're able to solve problems before a breath practice and after a breath practice. So I really encourage you to, try this out next time when, you're feeling out of alignment, if something's going on for you, if you're just generally feeling overwhelmed from life in general. Just moving into this expansive breath practice, bringing that nervous system back into balance, and then look back on whatever it was that was triggering you and seeing how it looks when we're looking at it from that more open awareness, from that more expansive state. Anyway, I love you and leave you, beautiful ones. Mwah. I hope you found that useful. If I can support you anyway, please reach out anytime.